are extraordinary.
No, I don't believe that at all. So the first Think Aloud was obviously pertaining to mathematics, and this one will be science specific. My delivery will be not talking to a bunch of science educators. It'll be talking as though I would be talking to a series of students. So I have a bit of a script, and I will try my best to follow the script for sake of timing more than anything else. My purpose, and it will be a video clip, my purpose of viewing this short video is to see if I can demonstrate science investigation skills, in particular as it relates to analyzing and interpreting data. I will try to make some solid observations, both qualitative, or using the 5 senses, and quantitative, or using measurables. And I will try my best to classify or group the observations based on some common relationships. I will analyze and interpret my data by making inferences and predictions, or extract meaning from the results. These skills can involve finding patterns in results of a series of observations and using content knowledge and personal experiences to form new hypotheses. What I'm going to do at this moment is I'm going to let the video play, and then I will pause it at about the 1 minute mark. And at that point, I will talk about observations that I've made, as well as the way I would have structured those observations. So take a moment to view this video, and then I will carry on. So what I will try to do is I will try to make observations from the macro or large scale to the micro or small scale at this moment. And I will also try to place them in accordance to classifications, just so I can talk about moving from a more specific to a more general approach. The first thing I noticed, looking at this particular video, from the large scale, were the high ceilings, were the concrete floors, were the industrial lighting. And these features are fairly common in a factory or a warehouse setting. So I thought that might have some information as far as what it is that I'm looking at in this particular video. Thinking back in a little bit more detail, I also noticed that there were individual stations and repetitive structures. I remember a couple of years ago when I walked through the Ford plant in Oakville, I noticed very similar features as far as that went. However, over there, a lot of it was robotic and operated through machinery. And this one didn't look like that. It looked more like there were some humans involved in some sort of function. Speaking of people, I also noticed that most of the people were wearing yellow uniforms. And thinking back to my trip when I was in Cuba and talking to the tour guide, he said that people tended to wear uniforms that would indicate their profession or what it is that they were doing. So maybe these people were workers in a particular area. And then I think back to my original hypothesis, which was this could be a factory or it could be a warehouse. And now that looking at all the people working individually for some sort of common good, I don't think it would be a warehouse, because a warehouse would be more empty. It would have a lot more items there, but not as many people. I also noticed that there were signs on the walls and labels, but they didn't look like they were written in English. It was some sort of foreign language. So I would ultimately conclude that I don't think this is taken in North America. It would be somewhere outside of North America. And thinking of more specific and detailed level, I saw that the aisles were cleared of obstructions. There weren't a lot of obstructions. There were some clearly labeled areas and markings on the floor. So to me, that would indicate that, things had to be in a specific area, and they were moved to and from that area, maybe through a forklift, which is also another common feature within a factory setting. So I'm starting to think that, the more I look at this, the more I see the video, the more I'm starting to lean towards the fact that this is some sort of a factory. On a very specific level, I noticed that some of the boxes there in this particular area were blue. And when I think of blue boxes, I automatically think that there's some sort of recycling going on there. But again, that is my bias. That is the area that I grew up in. I grew up in North America. And again, I've already said that this may not be within North America. So maybe those boxes don't actually indicate recycling. Maybe they indicate something else in this particular area. But as I start going through this, I'm still left with a couple of questions, and maybe I need to see this video a little bit further. A couple of questions that I still have is, if this is a factory, why is it so vast? And more specifically, if this is a factory, what is it that these people are making? I'm not quite sure. I think I need to investigate that a little bit further. And another question that I have is, I know that it may not be within North America, but the question is, where is it? Where would this be? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pause my Think Aloud, and I'm going to ask you at your table groups to write down some observations, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the next minute as well. I'm going to ask you to write some of your observations down on cards or post-it notes as you start seeing it go through. Do yourself a favor and let the video play a minute, because it's very hard to write down. You'll miss something. So we'll let the video play, write them down. At that moment, I'm going to ask you to share in your table groups some of the observations you did, realizing that what I did through my Think Aloud, I also went through the process of, I went macro to micro. That's not necessary for you. I also went from very general to more specific, and I tied in some of my observations and experiences. That's the way I thought things through. That's not to say that's how you think things through, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to advance the video another minute, record some observations, and make some inclined decisions about what it is that you're seeing, and maybe answer some of the questions that I still have standing. Okay, so I'll advance it a little bit more, and then I'll give you a minute or two to talk about what you just saw. So now take a minute or two to write down some of the thoughts, some of the things that you said. They might be those same ones that I'd had. Take a minute or two to write some of those down, and then what I'm going to ask is, in your group, talk about what it is that you're looking at, as well as maybe answer some of the questions that I still had outstanding. Where it might be located, what it is that they're making. Okay? So I'll give you about a minute of alone time to think, and then please feel free at your leisure when you feel comfortable to talk amongst your group about what it is that you're seeing in that particular